Hello and welcome to another edition of Right Think. I have a guest on the show today that I had on before, who is a mine and a wealth of information. I'd like to welcome back into the studio with me today, Lynne Taylor from America. Welcome, Lynne. Good to see you.
It's good to see you, David, and hello again to all your audience members and those who will see the archive version of this. I'm so happy to be with you guys again.
Thank you. It's really good to have you back. And you've been researching all kinds of very, very important things. And I think today we're going to delve into the possibility of plans for a global government, which I know people are very worried about. And,
Right.
you know, from my point of view, there's all these organizations we've heard of: the World Economic Forum, the Club of Rome, the Tavistock Institute, Chatham House, the Council of Foreign Relations. It goes on and on and on.
Right.
But you've been looking into a specific NGO, I think, called Democracy Without Borders.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
How does
absolutely.
that fit into the whole picture?
Well, Democracy Without Borders is a partner organization of not only the World Economic Forum, but of the United Nations. And so it's not the possibility of a world parliament, it is the absolute plan for a world parliament. And the interesting thing about it, David, is that the documentation clearly states in it that we, the people, the citizens of whatever country, are not supposed to know about it just yet. So that means that plans are going ahead, but we're supposed to be none the wiser. So one of the reasons why I am so honored to be on your show is we kind of help get to break that to not only your United Kingdom audience, but others who might be listening as well. Because I know over here in America, I did a broadcast and broke the news and people were like, "Oh, we've never heard of this. What is this?" And it was basically this documentation that I know you will be able to provide to your audience, because I made sure I sent the link to you. But let me read you their description of themselves, and I will be reading from the paper. So pardon me if I look down. Democracy Without Borders is an international civil society organization that promotes democracy at all levels. It works to improve and transform the United Nations and global institutions to make them more just, democratic, accountable, inclusive, and effective in addressing global challenges as it pursues a key goal for the United Nations Parliamentary Assembly as a step towards a democratic world parliament, stated January 2026.
Gosh, that sounds like a hellish nightmare. And I think of the EU Parliament, and I think of the Soviet Commissariat that you've had in the past.
I know.
That's and kind of what it envisions to me that they want to do. You know, this is
right. And don't take for a moment that newly created Board of Peace will not play into this, because it absolutely will. And I've got a document that I just found this morning, and I'll be sure to link it to you so that you can have it as well to share with your audience. But it is from the First Lady as she addressed the United Nations on international peace. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But from the executive summary for this Democracy Without Borders, let me just share with you.
Shall I put up the website of?
Okay, sure, you do that.
Yeah. Would that be helpful? So this is this is the website of
right. And notice the headline. It's a what? It's a human right. Is that not just the biggest load of poppycock?
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, right.
It absolutely is. But it tells you strives toward a world community. Oh, no agenda there, huh?
Yeah, I think our human rights should derive from our nations. I mean, this is a big plan to take away our human rights, our sovereignty, and national sovereignty, and individual sovereignty.
Absolutely. And, you know, here's the thing. It's not just people my age or your age. It's our young people who need to understand this. But this is the irony of the report that this Democracy Without Borders has pulled together. And here is from the executive summary for the report. It presents results of the largest global survey to date on public attitudes towards the creation of a citizen-elected world parliament to handle global issues, covering 101 countries that represent 90% of the world population. The survey finds that 40% of the respondents globally support, whereas a measly 27% are opposed. Now, what's interesting, David, is that, first of all, if it's the largest global survey to date, why were we not contacted? Did you ever have an invitation via regular mail or email that said, hey, David, what are your thoughts on this? I sure didn't get one. But this
no one asked me to do any polls at all. I've never, ever been asked to take part in any opinion poll in my life. So certainly not this one.
Right. That's the point. They used a very select group of people and then tagged it as the world's largest. You have to watch when these skewed data sets come out. You really do. Yeah. Now, what's really interesting that I found for not only America, but for the United Kingdom was basically the less educated you are and the more youthful you are, the more supportive you are. Contrast that with, well, the more educated you are and the older you are, you're going to go, not on my watch. Now, what do you suppose that is? The one uniting factor is education.
Indeed. So, yeah, this makes sense, doesn't it? People who are educated, who know what's going on, who've maybe a little bit awake or a little bit aware, they know that this is not a good thing. This is just another inversion, isn't it? Because they tell you, they use all of this nice language. Oh, it's going to enhance democracy when you know it's going to take it away.
Right. The warm, fuzzy language, because they know if they tickle your ear, you're going to go, oh, well, this is a very fine thing to support. Well, not necessarily. I cannot remember the exact page number of the documentation for this particular report, David, but I can tell you that on page 5, it will tell you that that Europe has the lowest support for a world parliament.
Okay.
On the top of page 6, it will say, though, wait a minute. Some of Europe is in the top 3. It's going to show you on pages 11 and 16 a graphic. And then if you want the specific data sets for Europe, including the United Kingdom, you would need to be on page 19. Now, for your audience, I see you're showing that the darker blue means that you are, I believe it is, supportive. And then the lesser blue is, I'm not so supportive of this. And then it goes into a literal gray area where you're neither supportive or opposed. And then the more red you are, the more opposed you are. Yeah. And again, they skew this on education level and age level, income level. What country are you from? What's the color of your skin? Does any of that really matter when it comes to your country's sovereignty?
Yeah, it shouldn't make any difference because everyone's going to be affected, aren't they? But they do these kind of polls all the time to see what different opinions are within different groups or different subgroups of society, isn't they?
Yeah, and then they're going to sit there and label it as, well, this is the general consensus. Oh, I'm so sorry. That is the biggest crock of you know what. No, it is not the biggest consensus, but they're going to couch the language to make it appear that way so that you will buy into it. Oh, well, if my neighbor thinks this is good, then I need to get on board. Not necessarily, because not every law is made to be obeyed. Not every mandate that comes through your city council or your members of parliament needs to be adhered to. Some of it is absolutely against the way that your legal system is set up. Same as here. If our Congress is not backing it, why should we? If it goes against our Constitution, why should we support it?
Indeed. And, we found this in the EU. I mean, that fortunately, and I'm forever grateful that the EU has come out of the UK has come out of the EU now. But when we were in it, they talked about, this is wonderful, we're pooling our sovereignty. But what that meant is no one had any sovereignty. And there was no way taken back. And I noticed with the data there, that it seemed to be sub-Saharan African countries were very, very much more in favor of it than Europe and North America. That was the highest, rating of favorability among the population. I wonder if that's because they're always told, well, you join this and you can get some money. I think that might be the reason why some people are favorable to it.
Since I don't know exactly everything that the United Kingdom supports as far as the Middle East and all that kind of stuff, I can speak to what America supports. But I do know that when it comes to joint efforts, most of the time, the United Kingdom and the United States are pretty much in lockstep with each other. And, research has shown if America had never extended any sort of aid or gotten involved in areas in countries that it shouldn't have been in, for example, Iran, back in the 50s, we would not in 2026 see what we're seeing happen. But it's very much playing into the global theater, as we could put it. And, the United Kingdom is right there in there somewhere. I mean, it has to be. Look at the leader you have now. Look at the former leader you had. Look at some of the representatives that you've had from your government that go and sit in the United Nations, and they go, yes, sir, may we have another? I mean, come on. But look at some of the questions that were posed on this really big survey that was put out. Among the questions that support a global parliament, would you support or oppose the creation of a citizen-elected world parliament to handle global issues? Well, now, I bet you your bottom dollar, if you took that question right now, David, and you put it on a clipboard and you went out on any street, wherever you're located, and asked that question, what do you think the answer would be?
I think most people would say yes, especially if you went to a university or a town center. But I think one of the big reasons why people would say yes is they're completely brainwashed with this fear-mongering about the climate. So everyone is like being psychologically pressured to think we need a global government to deal with the climate to save the planet.
Right. Absolutely.
And a lot of people actually, it's absolute nonsense, but there's a lot of people who are useful idiots who genuinely believe that they're doing something good for fighting for the climate when absolutely it's just a propaganda.
Right. Well, absolutely. It's not just the climate, though. It's the fact that we need to be a collective body. Why? If you go back and you look at the scriptures, the first indication of collective government, if you will, or collective anything was at the Tower of Babel. And tell me how well that one worked out. It was a mess.
A very good point. They're just trying to recreate it.
Exactly. But, that is one of the things. And here's another thing that it says in the report. The analysis of the results suggests that those who are more at the periphery of power and influence, whether nationally or globally, David, are most likely to support this, whereas those who are out in the boondocks, so to speak, or, in your rural areas, or they're a little bit older and wiser, they're going to know, wait a minute, no, England is sovereign. America is sovereign, or we're supposed to be. We're told that we're supposed to be. But
Mm.
then when you look at all the undercurrent of unity and collectivism and, oh, we're united for peace, because I could tell you right now, there are groups that you would think, oh, they're sworn enemies. But what are they doing now? They're celebrating what's happening in real time because they say, oh, well, so and so stuck a label of peace on it. And therefore, because someone stuck a label of peace on it, it's the real thing. It's smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. This board of peace, I mean, the way I think of it is they're actually, it's not BOARD, it's BORED. These people are actually bored of peace. And
Well,
that's why
okay,
they're
all right.
war.
Okay,
That's
so
what it really is.
there's money to be made off of war. We know this is more about economic gain than it is about a world parliament to solve a global issue. Because what are the global issues that they want to solve? Well, remember the statement at the beginning? That group, Democracy Without Borders, its sole purpose is to prop up the UN. And where do you think this is leading? But those sustainable development goals. So all 17 of those are classified as world problems. So we have to have a citizen elected world parliament. I don't know any political figure, David, in the United States, Mexico, Canada, the United Kingdom, or any other place that I would say, oh, yes, they sound like a great idea. Not one. So who do you think they're going to pull as our candidates for a world parliament? Maybe it's somebody from this board of peace. Now, you said BORED, as in their board. They need to make more money. But think about the countries that are in it. They had to chip in $1 billion. And if that wasn't bad enough, our idiot in charge, the president, goes, oh, we're going to dedicate $10 billion from the people, which means my taxpayer money just went somewhere I never said it could go. And my Constitution sure didn't say it could do that. But this is what happened. So here I'm thinking board as in we're going to take a board and we're going to smack you over the head. That's what I think.
That too, definitely. Because this money is just going to go into the pockets of the oligarchs, the Western oligarchs, the global oligarchs, isn't it?
Some of the groups that you named at the beginning, the Club of Rome, the Tavistock Institute, the what else was it that you
Council
mentioned?
of Foreign Relations.
Oh, absolutely. The World
Trilateral
Economic Forum, the World Health Organization. Yes, because after all those idiots are in bed with the United Nations for the Sustainable Development Goals as well. So this is a collective pot of absolute crock, is what it is.
And it's the same people who inhabit all of these institutions. You see the same people. They all go on about 10 jollies a year to a different thing, don't they? They go to Davos, they go to the G7, they go to the UN summit, the NATO summit, the G20 summit, whatever else is going on, and it's all the same people at all of them.
Well, don't be offended when I bring up King Charles, but let's talk about King Charles for just a second. He's already got a documentary out on Prime, the Amazon Prime streaming outlet here in America, about his agenda and how he has been putting it in place for decades. And now that he's what we call Charles in charge, he's making sure that it comes through. And what do you think he's supporting? I know you know, but I'm asking your audience, what do you think he's supporting? Do you think he's really supporting the United Kingdom?
That is the thing. And I think a lot of people are very, very unhappy because he's supposed to be acting according to his coronation oath, which is to look after the interests of the United Kingdom. Well, there are many things in the oath, but I mean, basically, he's the head of the Church of England. He is supposed to maintain the integrity of the United Kingdom and the sovereignty of the nation and uphold God's laws within the kingdom. And, part of the Bill of Rights says that no power, prelate, priest, pope, and something else, I can't remember the exact word, should have any authority or power in this realm. And so when he goes off to the United Nations and the World Economic Forum and he tries to implement their agenda, that is actually going against his oath. And I think a lot of people realize that.
Well, good for them. I'm so glad that they are waking up. I hope that they will be more willing to get up off the couch and do something, because we're seeing an awful lot of complacency, not just here in America, but everywhere, because, well, we're so busy, or the circus they're running has us so busy going to work or buying groceries or attending all the civic meetings or this, that, and the other, that we've said, you know what, you go run that, I'm going to go run my life. When we're supposed to be running them,
right? Not
they running us.
Yeah, they are supposed to be serving us and accountable to us.
Exactly.
Everything they do should be open and transparent, so we see what they're doing. But the opposite is happening, because they are keeping what they're doing private, but they're trying to surveil all of us.
Well,
oh my goodness, someone might talk about what they're doing, they don't want that to happen.
Well, this is why getting this report out about the Democracy Without Borders is so huge, because it will say general population isn't supposed to know about it yet. So I really hope that your listeners and the people that they share this with will start to get really loose lips and big mouths and go, hey, guess what? Because the more we talk about it, the more we can raise awareness as to this is a wolf in sheep's clothing. But let's stop and look at the mindset that Democracy Without Borders is using, because there are two key systems of thought here. One of them is called, hang on just a second, I have to get to my notes. They are using what's called the theory of change to affect global democracy, global governance, and then whatever your last one was. I think it was global citizenship, which we have the Global Citizen Pledge, if you want to show that to the audience, because that is a train wreck in and of itself. But this has been out over a decade, but it's basically saying that you're pledging yourself not to the United Kingdom, not to America, or whatever country you're listening from, but to a collective nothingness. And you're going to pledge yourself to support creation rather than the creator, which is a big problem.
This is extraordinary. It's like you're pledging to reach the 17 global goals for sustainable development, climate change, and all of this.
All the other stuff that goes in with it. Yes, the inequality, the zero poverty, which we know that's a big bunch of hogwash right there. Everybody's supposed to be poor. What was it Klaus said? You'll own nothing and be happy. Absolutely. But this tells you that you're willing to put yourself under a global governance. This is all tied back to like I said, the psychological warfare that Democracy Without Borders and others use. And it's called oh goodness, I just had it. It was the theory of change. Now, theory of change has been in practice in education for decades. And basically what the theory of change is, yes, there's a lot of mumbo jumbo that goes into explain it. But for the rest of us who need just plain English, it's a way to, okay, we want you to think oranges. So we're going to start over here with how to get you from where you are over here to oranges. So you may be over here on apples, but we're going to somehow take you from apples and change your mind slowly so you never feel it into the belief that oranges are better. So that's just a very basic example. But think about, this has been done not just in America, but everywhere in education, because how do we get a culture to change? We affect the thoughts. We point them to what we want to think, not what necessarily is true and real.
That's it. You know, you have these movements. It's like the frog in the pot of water that slowly gets boiled,
Oh
and it
yeah, he
doesn't
never
realize
knows it.
it's
He
getting
never
boiled.
knows. And then suddenly he's dead. He's like, well, what happened? Well,
Mm,
idiot, you didn't get out of the pot. Now, this also ties to another 1950s model that's used more in business, and that's the Fitzpatrick model. And that,
mm,
again, is from the 50s. And it's basically saying we're going to put you, a human being, in this funneled system so that you can go from education to work. It's called a pipeline.
right.
And I have seen images, especially for things that butt up to the Sustainable Development Goals, where people are pictured as sludge going through a pipeline. Now, I cannot think of anything more degrading to our children and to our future generations than describing them as sludge that goes through a pipe.
Mm. That's
I mean,
horrible. It's inhuman.
exactly. But why do you think the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development coined the term human capital? Because we're worth
Mm.
more on a measurable scale to be bought, sold, and traded than we are valued as a wonderful, fearful, created work of the Lord.
Mm. It reminds me of that video, that old music video of Pink Floyd's "Another Brick in the Wall." I mean, that's exactly what the visuals of what they were doing to human beings. They were just put through a
Absolutely.
mincer,
Yeah,
and
the
and
meat
that was
grinder.
it. And you come
Yeah,
out as sludge. You know, that's what they think of people. Isn't
yeah,
that absolutely horrendous? And
it
we're made
is.
in the image of God to glorify God,
And
and
if
they want
people
to just dehumanize us like
Oh,
this.
well, absolutely. Because if we can dehumanize you, then we're not going to feel so bad when we put the screws to you
Mm,
through this world parliament or through the sustainable development goals or any of the other
mm.
stuff that's connected to it. And I know that you'll be good about putting in the links that I've
Yeah.
already shared, but then I have some that are from my blog, commoncorediva.com. That is accessible in English for anyone across the planet who wishes to find out what has happened to our education system. And people are going, well, Lynn, can't you talk about education without politics? And the answer is no, you cannot.
Mm.
Not in England, not in America. And here's why: because we have bureaucrats
Mm.
and public-private partnerships who have inserted themselves into education. They've rebranded it as the old way of learning is bad.
Mm.
Oh, look at all the stuff we created. Look at all the history that we mucked up. Oh, no, let's go in, sanitize the history. Let's update education so that we know not how to critically think or tell you that 2 and 2 is 4. No,
Mm.
let's reinvent the wheel and put it as to outcome-based. And
Mm.
what outcome-based does in education is it prepares you for a slot that your government system wants you to fit in, rather than you being free enough to exercise the God-given gifts and talents that you have. Because I can guarantee you the system has got it so that by the time Johnny and Susie are here in second grade, I'm not sure what that would equate to in England, but the point of it is from a young age, all the way through the system, you're being taught one skill or one profession.
Mm.
Not like when I went to school, or maybe you went to school, where you had a well-rounded framework so that
Mm.
by the time you graduated, you could decide, hey, university's good for me, or I want to go into the working world, or I want to go be an apprentice. No, this is all predetermined for you. That's the danger of an outcome-based system.
I
And
mean,
I
for
know
a lot of people, this is completely new. I mean, it's you know, I was a teacher before I went into politics, and
right.
it was the whole system had been degraded somewhat even when I went into teaching in the
Well,
90s.
yeah.
But it's even more so now. They've changed it again, and they've dumbed it down even more.
Oh, absolutely. But see that and people, oh, well, the system failed.
Mm.
Honey, it did not fail. It has been a roaring success because guess who won? The government.
Mm.
The government got exactly what they wanted. And anytime you hear a politician, I don't care if it's there in Parliament or at your city council or where it is, if you hear, I need a return on my investment, don't think that your children are not seen as a dollar sign, because they are.
That's it. Yeah, but if you're an ordinary parent, you don't even think that that's going on. You just think, oh, well, I'm sending my kids to school. And they basically still trust the school. They still trust the government to some extent to actually give their kids an education, when actually they're really very depressing Marxist indoctrination camps. And you don't even get happy, because, you might have nothing and be happy, as they say. But the schools these days, the way they're built, even the architecture of the schools, they feel like the most horribly depressing prison kind of, sites that you can imagine. They actually do look like prisons.
There's a reason, but it's not to support the prison to school pipeline, as has been told. It's to get you used to the institutionalized setting. Because don't think that we're not going to be sorted, whether we support this global parliament or whether we don't. We're going to be sorted. Of course we are, because guess what they have to do with all the nonconformists?
I'm sure they've got that plan, but I will certainly resist. I think there's a lot of resistance to that.
Well, let me share.
They're not going to take me, I'll tell you.
I know. I tell you what. But that's the thing. We have to have more people rise up, because the more that you have rise up, the stronger the message to those who think that they're running the show can see, oh, they're on to us. We need to, and then pretty soon you do what your government framing documents charged you to do, which was to hold them accountable. Here in America, we have the part of the Declaration of Independence says, when you spot bad government, you, first of all, you hold them accountable. You shut it down. You punish the people, literally punish the people who ran it amok. And then you start over and you do better, because we learn from our mistakes. But I've never seen a system like the United Kingdom or the United States go, oh, guess what? We're going to go take all these old borrowed lessons from the Soviet Union or Nazi Germany, and we're going to try to replicate them with a new flair and hope to heck they work. Because guess what? They didn't work then. What makes you think they'll work now?
It looks like they're actually trying to replicate communism in the countries of the West. I mean, I run the Heritage Party. My general secretary is a Polish woman. She's wonderful, Madeline. But she actually grew up in the communist system, and she says this is what they're trying to replicate now in this country. But she can see it because she comes from Poland. But a lot of people in England just simply still can't see it yet. They know that there's something going wrong. They know that there's a general sense of unease, but they don't realize that actually it is communism they're trying to implement here. Well, and with the total control, as well as the universal basic income. Everyone will be poor. They're manufacturing scarcity in the economy by literally knocking down coal power stations and insisting we're going to have all our energy in the future from wind and solar, which simply isn't going to work. Everyone knows that, who got a brain. But all of these things go together, and with education as well, like you say, kids are not taught facts. That's the one thing. When I was a teacher, they still did teach facts to some extent. I mean, I was a chemistry teacher, so I was like, well, you can't mess up science, but they found a way to mess up science.
They did, and it's called money. So yeah, you can have a fact-based research paper, but you have to stop and ask, well, what university or what big pharma company funded it, or what big tech company funded it, and was the scientist bought? Because that's how we got into some of the mess we're in when it comes to healthcare and climate, is because we got facts, but are they real facts or are they bought facts? You have to wonder. But there in England, I know Mindspace was a big document that said, oh, well, this is, being unleashed on the British people. It is by the Britons. No, it is not. Over half the research came from the United States, and it's stuff that was left over from not only the MI5 or MI6, but the CIA. And where did they get it? From the Nazis. So this is a cultural nudge, if you will. Why do you think when it was COVID, you saw all the public signs that says, stay in place, do this, do that, do the other? And you've seen it since then about, well, this is a safe place, or this, I've had people share signs with me about, oh, well, the nudging's still continuing. It is absolutely, because they're not going to let go because they saw how successful it was. So why not carry it on? But I want to get.
Sorry, go ahead, Lynne.
No, you go ahead.
It just it pains me because I can see through it, and I know millions of people did, but we were like 10-15% of the population, and then you had 80%, 85% complying with what was going on, but you did have a significant minority that resisted, didn't wear a mask, didn't socially isolate themselves and whatever. I became a rebel in 2020. I've been a good boy all my life, but suddenly I was this granny killing, super spreading rebel, and
you dared to breathe
under the sun, But,
you dared to breathe. No, I wanted to tie this democracy without borders. We were talking about the World Parliament and the global peace and the Board of Peace and all that. Well, just yesterday, our First Lady did that.
Incredible. She addressed the UN Security Council. I saw a quick video of that, and I just thought,
I got the speech.
An absolute clown show, really.
Yeah, I got the speech, and here's I'm going to read you just a few excerpts, okay? Mrs. Trump's message of tolerance is rooted in the concept of democratizing knowledge for everyone. In this new age of imagination, where artificial intelligence provides the global community with the access to learn about each other's cultural norms, including but not limited to customs, race, and religious beliefs. Well, now, what are you going to do with all those people who are going, well, Lynne, you're not whatever ethnic group, so you really shouldn't be wearing their costumes or their clothes or celebrating their special days? Because you have a huge population who will say, okay, all right, let's take, for example, St. Patrick's Day is coming up. Yes, I have some Irish in me. Do I look Irish? Yes, I do. But was I born in Ireland? No, I was born in America. But because I have Irish heritage, if I wanted to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, I could go do all the stuff that you do. But you have people who look like you, and I'm going to go celebrate St. Patrick's Day. There's going to be somebody, 9 times out of 10, a young person. David, you're not of that culture. Why are you doing this? You shouldn't be, but that's disrespectful. Do you see where I'm going? All right.
It just bores me to death, these people who are like social justice warriors who say, you can't do this, you can't do that, Celebrate diversity, but you're not allowed to celebrate anyone else.
That's right. We can be inclusive, but I'm sorry, you can't do that. Well, that's exclusive. Thank you. Anyway, we're going to go back to the speech.
Yeah.
Okay. In a historic move, the First Lady, Melania Trump, addressed the UN Security Council as the United States assumed its presidency. Now, here's a fun fact. Did you know that the UN rotates what country gets to be president over the Security Council? Because if you didn't, you now know that. The Security Council's presidency rotates among members each month. So beginning in March 2026, the United States gets its turn. Woohoo! The Security Council serves as the UN's principal organ responsible for, brace yourself, safeguarding international peace and security. And you want to wonder if that board of peace that was just created isn't connected? All right, let's go on. This marked the first time a sitting First Lady presided over the Security Council as its members contemplated technology, education, peace, and security. Okay, this part is from the press release. I am getting to her speech. Here she goes. The U.S. stands with all of the children throughout the world, and I hope soon peace will be yours. I'm not going to try to do her accent. Sorry. I'm doing good enough to do my own. Ambassador Waltz, I'm grateful for the distinguished honor to preside over the United Nations Security Council as the United States assumes its presidency. Thank you for your warm welcome, United Kingdom, France, Russian Federation, China, Greece, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Denmark, Panama, Libya, Somalia, Colombia, Pakistan, Bahrain, and Latvia. Collectively, your mission to maintain security while upholding the responsibility of preventing conflict during both times of war and peace is significant. Peace does not need to be fragile. These are her words. These are her words.
Me. Where does one begin?
I know. Here, where she's not done. Education is widely recognized as a fundamental human right. Let me stop the bus for just a moment. Education is a privilege. It is not a human right. What are human rights? Well, there lies the issue. What are human rights? Are we talking the inherent human rights that we were given by God Almighty? Or are we talking about the fundamental human rights that are assigned by our government? See, education falls in one of those, but it's not government assigned. It was over here in the inherent right. Why do you think there's those verses in the Old Testament about parents educate your children, pass down knowledge, gain wisdom? It wasn't the government. It was the parents. Let's move on. Imagine the loss of potential to our collective humanity. Our new medical breakthroughs, our advancements in food security, groundbreaking technologies has all gone. And this is because we don't have education or we don't have peace. Now, everything she just listed in that collective action is found where? Those sustainable development goals, because guess what?
Really?
One of them is even named food security. Okay, we must cultivate a just moral imagination for the next generation. Okay, Melania and all the other nations, how are you going to do that when you see what is being passed off as moral? Just common sense questions here. You know, it doesn't take a rocket scientist or a professor to figure these out. All right. One of the last things I want to bring out from her speech. The global community must facilitate complete access to technology so that every individual can reach their full potential through education.
Right. Education through AI that's going to tell you what the government wants you to know.
Okay.
I imagine.
Oh, no, I'm so glad you said that, because here we go. Is a single digital nation state, and that's hyphenated, nation state. Oh, guess who else does that? Inevitable. Perhaps this idea isn't as far-fetched because we have digital currency and payment systems via the blockchain, plus AI's massive factual database. Again, who's running the facts? Are these real facts or are these skewed facts? I mean, if you look at the survey, it was run on data, but they skewed the data to come up with a false positive. All right. AI's massive factual database is already revolutionizing media and financial markets. None of that has to do with education. Do you know why the United Nations chose education as the chief change agent for culture? Because it reached the most number of people at the same time at all different levels. Why do you think education is such a kingpin for the World Economic Forum, for the World Health Organization, for the United Nations, for the World Bank, for the Club of Rome, for the Tavistock Institute, and any of these other Yahoo groups? Now, here's her last two statements I want to point out to the people. AI is democratizing knowledge. And then this one, let's connect everyone to knowledge through AI. And if you want to see how scary AI taking over things and making them something they're not, there is a YouTube video from a recent meeting of the World Economic Forum, where you had this Jewish doctor, philosopher doctor, and he gave a speech on how AI was going to replace books because it can manipulate language. It was going to become religion because, after all, religion is just words. Well, okay, are we talking what the Bible says about religion? Because what does the Bible say about religion? Religion is a man-made construct. If you look at worship, which is in the Bible, that involves word, thought, and action. So you have to understand where they're going with this to tease out what they're saying as a possibility, or are they promising what's coming in the future? Because they're going to cloud it with, oh, well, it's possible we could have this, or it might rain meatballs if we want to, but in all probability it won't, because is that really possible? No.
It's obviously, you know what their values are, if you like. They're not actually values at all, they're inverted values, but you know what their agenda is. You know that they're pushing wokery, they're pushing diversity, inclusion, climate nonsense, and and they're against any kind of formal religion, obviously Christianity, but they're even against Islam.
But it has to go. It has to go. But so does Judaism. So does Islam. I mean, they all have to go because they're not homogenized enough. But, you'll sit here and like you just said, they want, diversity. Well, how diverse can you be when you're culling the pot? You can't have diversity if you're controlling and making everybody into one think, or one curriculum, or one religion, or one economy, or one anything.
Well, it's a good point, because it's actually a fake diversity, isn't it? True diversity is different nations being different and doing different things in different parts of the world with different cultures. Well, they actually want everyone to have the same culture, this globo homo culture.
Well, if you look at what the Bible says about diversity, it's all for it, because we're all different members of the body of Christ, but we're united through that one body. Remember, not everybody can be a head, not everybody can be a hand or a foot or a belly button. We all have different roles. That's the diversity. And we're included in the body of Christ. But as you know, all of this other stuff is man-made, but it's twisting what's good, right, wonderful, and beautiful into what can be manipulated, what can be controlled, what can be dominated. Because after all, it's not about you and I. It's not about our peace of mind or the freedom to live where we want or do what we want. This is about how much money you can make the system.
This is it's really hard for people to get their head around that there is this cabal, and they create money. The whole financial system is not as people imagine it to be, and
Right.
they want to squeeze everything out of our labor, everything out of our productivity for themselves, and they want to own everything. That's like you say, the World Economic Forum's famous mantra: you will own nothing and be happy. So they want to take away ownership of our homes, so we rent. There's like now in London, there's blocks of flats being builded which are for rental only. It's like, build to rent. You can't own them.
Right.
And that, this is actually being implemented in some places. They even want us to, so you won't own a car, you will share a car, when you need it, as and when you need it, like maybe twice a month, you'll get a car from the carpool. You won't even have your own tools and your own, you want to buy use a hammer, you'll go to the tool shop and rent a hammer for an hour and then take it back.
Right.
This is
Right.
the
Well,
world they wanted for us.
The one that gets me is that, you can't travel outside of a certain location, because for me, the ability, and I know there are a lot of people like me, the ability to go where I want, when I want is huge.
Yeah.
And so if you take that away from people, you demoralize them terribly. Think about this. Think of your favorite vacation spot, if you have one. For me, it's going to be the beach. That's where I feel the most connected to God. I don't live anywhere near a beach. It's not within my 15-minute city, if we're going to go there. So I would never see it again. That fills me with great sadness, because how are you going to feel connected to what you really need to be connected to if you can't access it? Well, you're going to have to, do it internally. And that's not a bad thing, but we were given 5 senses for a reason. It was to taste, to touch, to hear, to smell, to feel. And if you neuter any of those senses from what our world was created, because we were supposed to be stewards of the world. Remember back in the Old Testament, God gave us everything, the animals to eat, the plants to eat, and he said there were a few restrictions. And it wasn't to say, well, I'm sorry, you're not good enough. No, it was because he knew it would protect us. But the point of it is, we were called then to be stewards. Well, this has taken stewardship and turned it on its head, spun it around backwards, and then labeled it as something else.
It's tyranny, isn't it? Basically, it's totalitarian tyranny. So everyone will be oppressed and suppressed, and then then they want to keep everyone's knowledge down, so they don't have even the basic knowledge to understand that life can be something different, because they want to present to the youngest of children, oh, this is all that there is. Global government, wokery, and that's it.
Right. Well, think about this: the number of children who have never written a handwritten note to a loved one, or mailed it, or received one. I have stacks of letters from people in my family who are long gone, and my only connection to them now are those letters. My children have received what we call snail mail now. They've received it. They know what it's like. They will send some letters, but most of it's the text stuff. Okay. I get it. It's easier. Everybody's busy, but we need to stop being so busy to see what is going on, because if we can see what's going on, we stand a chance to put a foot in the door and to be that plucky bit of people who I know that your citizens can be. Just like over here, we got pluck. We wouldn't be where we were as nations if we didn't have people with gumption or pluck, or whatever it is you want to call it, tenacity. I don't want to use any of the system's words because they've bastardized them.
It's a true,
So,
true, true.
let's think in, okay, I'm from the southeast region of the United States. We have a lot of colloquialisms. So we want to be, oh my goodness, we want to be smart as a whip. We want to be as effective as we can be. We don't want to be that screen door on that submarine, because let's face it, if you put a submarine in the water with a screen door, are your people inside going to make it, or are they not?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, indeed. We've got to stand up. We just got to stand up and fight.
Yeah.
And the first thing is being aware, and then understand what's going on. And you need to know what's happening so that you can fight against it. And this is what's so good about you, is that you're actually looking at the documentation, and you're actually looking and dissecting the plans and then presenting them so people can actually understand this group of people are doing this. They have this plan. They're not telling you, but this is what's coming down the line. And the trouble is, I think some people, there's no imminent threat, because they just, dinner will be on the table tonight and then I'll go and watch the football match. But things are coming down the line 2 or 3 years time, and we've got to take action now in order to stop it, because when it happens, it'll just overwhelm you unless you actually stop it when it's a small wave rather than a big wave that's right up next to you.
Right. Well, here's the thing. If you wait till they knock on your door, you've waited way too late. I mean, this is what I tell people here in America, because we have what's called the Fourth Amendment. And that is that our government has to have a search warrant or probable cause to even enter our home. If they don't have either, sorry, dude, you're not getting in the door. You're just not. But so many of us, and I hope England has something that's similar, because so many of us have willingly opened the door and not only said, hey, come on in, but have a cup of tea. No, don't invite them in. Don't sit down and be friends with them. They were there. They are there to serve you, not to be your best friend, not to be your buddy, not to be your mama or your daddy or your sugar daddy.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. I think, sometimes here in England, people think, oh, if we're nice to the police, if we show them that we're, helping them out, then, that's going to make things easier for us. And actually, that's the exact opposite. You don't talk to the police. I mean, my advice to everyone is you have 3 phrases that you use for the police. No comments. I do not understand, or I don't answer questions. That's the only 3 things.
Those are good. Those are really good. Over here, we say we plead the Fifth.
Okay.
But you have to know what the Fifth Amendment is. And, it's basically those 3 questions. I'm not going to say because it's going to incriminate me. But, as much as we're being surveilled, they don't even need that. They've got whatever. And with AI, the danger of that is it can manipulate. It can take our conversation right now, and it will go through and pick out things that we've said and put them in a context that we never even hinted at. That's dangerous, David. But that's the type of surveillance that is being used against us. And our governments are fully sanctioning it. They're propping it up. And that's one of the dangers of the AI. Now, here we have a big scuttlebutt because the police, we know, have shifted from being preservers and protectors as they were supposed to be. But if you look at the Constitution, we weren't even supposed to have police. We were supposed to have state-led militia. Okay. That was the extent of it, not police. Because if you look at what police do and the model that police came from, it's all those failed regimes where control took away and chipped away at the rights of the people. And I think you know which regimes I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Regimes. That's a very good point, and maybe that's something that, is a discussion to have and something to actually look at. Is the policing model that we have actually keeping us safe and secure? Because I've never had any run-ins with the police until the COVID era started, and then I saw them, arresting innocent people, bashing them over the head for asserting their fundamental freedoms. And I thought, there's hundreds of you here marching and charging into normal people. Why are you not going out and arresting rapists and murderers? Surely that would be far more effective than having you all here,
you would think,
bashing ordinary people over the head.
You would think, but no, we have to shut those nonconformists up. But I'll send this to you if you'll remind me. I did an article, and I can't remember exactly what year it was, but something in our local newspaper tipped me off. The local police force was being honored for, I don't know what. Anyway, something didn't read right in the article, and I got to researching it, and I found out that, lo and behold, the local police department was kowtowing not to the state constitution, not even the city charter, but to a national body that was a member of an international body that was using police standards that were endorsed by the United Nations.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
So let me just remind me when we're done to send you that information, because you could have a big panel, and I'd love to be there to help you pull this off, but we could have a big panel on, okay, what is the model for policing? Where is it now? Because if you look at the Sustainable Development Goals and the 17 goals, one of them is about peace, justice, and cooperation. Guess who's involved in that? Your law enforcement.
Okay. And it doesn't tell you what that means, but you've got these Sustainable Development Goals, and some of them look absolutely lovely. It looks like, no poverty, no hunger, but peace and justice. What does that mean?
Whose idea of peace and justice is it? Is it our creator, or is it this corrupt bunch of idiots over here? You have to stop and look. But there is an image out there, and I would urge your audience to look. And I don't remember who did it, but someone took the Sustainable Development Goals and all their wonderful colors up on one part of the screen, and then down below they put in black and white what it really meant.
Yes.
And it's absolutely jaw-dropping when you see, holy crap, that's what they meant when they said no poverty, or decent education, or it was quality education and decent work. Yeah, right. Then tell me why you have the European Union Youth Guarantee that targets a certain age group, that if you're not in school, you got to be working, because you, by George, can't be just sitting at home trying to get your act together. That's not acceptable.
Yes.
We need them to have their heads together, so that when they go to school or they go to work, they know what the heck they're doing. But no, we can't allow a child to be a child. We have to fill their day with stuff, because the busier they are, the better they're going to be. Really?
That was even a thing when I was a teacher, which I never really liked, is that the idea was you've got to keep them busy all day, every day. Don't give kids even 5 minutes rest, because the devil makes work for idle hands. So they kept continually doing stuff. I was like, if I was at school now, I'd be exhausted, because there's no time to relax.
But that's the goal, honey. Get you exhausted, keep you tired, keep you hungry, keep moving that line so that you never quite make it. But if you just go a little further, you'll make it. That's the control. That's the part of the tyranny that people don't want to talk about. They don't want to look out. They just want to go, oh, Johnny and Susie are in school. I can go play tennis. Is your tennis game, your cricket game, your whatever game, is it worth the price of seeing your child become an indentured servant of a system you don't want?
Indeed, yeah. Well, a lot of people are now going down the route of home education. People who've got the means, even if people who don't have much means, but they're actually doing it because they know schools are so dangerous now. do they need to do this for their children?
Well, that's a whole nother topic that we can save for another show. Because
Yes,
if you think that homeschooling is exempt from all this, I have rude news for you. It's not, because we've seen it happen. And why? Because the UN has deemed that homeschooling is not great. But pornography in
for the
schools
UN, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think it's great. Yeah, it is great.
Yeah, I know.
Not great for the UN and their plans, but it is great for sovereign individuals and people. And
yes, it is. We just have to make sure that we don't invite the system in, or that they don't invite themselves in. Because again, once they invite themselves in, it's just not a good thing.
Yeah, indeed. But Lynne, you've been so amazing giving us all this information. We talked about so many different things that all relate together, but we could talk about any one of those topics for a very long time. But just to finish off, I mean, you know, I think some people are going to be a little bit worried about these plans for a global government. You know, in the back of your mind somewhere that, you know, there's a plan to do this, but no one's actually seen it yet, because the UN is there, but it seems to be, you know, just a shower, you know, a mess. But I think it's actually very competent behind the scenes, but it presents itself as something that is you know, it's feigned inefficiency, and they feign conflict, but actually they've got their plans behind the scenes. But what can we do to stop this from happening? Is there, you know, what's the best way?
First of all, let's share this. Let's talk about what you and I have talked about. Let's start asking tough questions. Like, okay, where is the plan? How can I access the plan? Because remember, it's not supposed to be available to John Q. Public or Joe Blow Citizen yet. It means it'll be coming out at some point. Somebody's got the document. We need to be finding it. So if you're gifted in research and want to help look for it, get a couple of like-minded people together. Use that stupid computer for good. You know, don't let it run you. You run it. Okay. You might have to go behind a few security walls. I don't know. Somewhere, somehow, it's connected to the United Nations. We know that. Okay. I can just about bet you money, because one of the archive resources that your audience will be getting is a show that I did on a geopolitical talk show. Havorde, oh goodness, I can't remember his. Yep, I got him. He and I did this, and we were talking about this very thing. And it was when the UN decided, well, we need to be rechartered. It is somewhere connected to that. So if we can get our hands on that, we stand a chance of, okay, here's what's in the document. Now let's divide and conquer. You take part A, I'll take part B. We'll get our notes. We'll put them together. We'll formulate the tough questions. We'll formulate the citizen actions. Those are things that we can be doing. And you don't necessarily need a computer to do all of it. You can use a computer to do some of it. But again, remember, if it's pen and paper, and you're meeting in your own home, there's not a bloody thing they can do to stop you. Not yet.
Pen and paper. It's a powerful weapon. Yes.
Well, remember the power. What was it? The pen is mightier than the sword. Indeed, well, I've got and what do you see? I got a pencil. Okay, wait a minute. To be precise, here's the pen.
Great.
So yes, the pen is mightier than the sword. We need to be living that. We absolutely do. Another thing that you can do is to help put this into action is to get folks who know these things in your area. Okay, that might be cost prohibitive in person, but you've always got, again, you can use the internet for good. You know, if you get enough groups together, you can get someone in person. I mean, I know you've got people who you communicate with, David, who have been asking for years for me to come over, because we could have so many different conversations with so many different groups to help get them informed, because Lord knows the BBC is not doing it.
No, well, the BBC is there to
It's yeah.
divert you off into a cul-de-sac. Yeah,
Well,
with
I
disinformation.
understand, but you get my point.
Mm,
You have to switch off the mainstream media
yeah.
there, just like you do here. But it's going to be the grassroots efforts, the grassroots meetings, the grassroots
Mm,
um, gumption,
mhm.
the pull it up by
Activism,
your.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not sure what the British equivalent is, but if you know what I'm meaning, then you can put it in words that your people can understand, because
yeah,
I know that the language, we sometimes use the same words, but they don't necessarily mean the same thing.
yeah. We got to be ballsy. Might
There
be
you
might
go.
say that. I think that's
There you go.
international. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, they got that one. They got that one. But yes, if you wanna check out my blog, it's commoncorediva.com. I do have a donate page, so if you wish to financially bless any of the work that I do, because every show I go on, every resource that I share, I don't get paid for. This is out of a labor of love. And so, if you wish to financially bless anything, that's fine. If you can't, I understand. I'm not going to come to your house and beat you with a wet noodle. I just don't do that. But I do appreciate prayer support, because what I do is gutsy. It takes gumption, or being ballsy. And I know I set myself and my family up for attack. I know that. But I still do it anyway, because it's the right thing to do.
Mm. You're doing great work, Lynn,
Thank
and
you.
thank you for joining me on the show. And another wonderful expose of something that's going on. I'm sure everyone who watches the show and who watches this will look at those links and you find out more about it, educate yourselves,
And ask me questions.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then we can start to take action. I mean, we are taking a lot of action as the Heritage Party on a very local level, because there's the global to local programs of implementing these things in local councils, and we've been quite successful. There's a big growing movement of grassroots people in the UK
Awesome.
challenging their very local councils in their districts, in their towns, because they implement the program locally. So we challenge our local councillors and educate them, and then also stand for election as well, because there's a lot of elections coming up in May at local level.
Okay.
So we're actually having an impact on
That's
at
awesome.
least halting the agendas at local level. So that's very, very good action you can take as well.
Well, let me encourage you guys then, continue to skew that narrative, because
Mm.
the more you skew it, the less they can skew you.
Mm. Indeed, indeed. Skew the narrative, take action, fight back. Absolutely. Lynn, thank you. It's been a great pleasure to have you on the show. And if you're joining me for the show, if you have joined me, thank you so much as well. And God bless you all.